We could get started. One of the things that Ginny had done at the board governance meeting was we talked about bringing back trustee education.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a trustee education topic. So I could do that.
That you want to discuss, that you'd like to discuss now?
Yeah, I could do that before.
Going to add that to the agenda? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And Nancy, I want you to know that Linda's here. You could introduce yourself. So Linda,
Yeah, I see. Hi, Linda.
Hi,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you too.
Look forward to actually doing that in person.
yes, yeah. And then Linda Dixie is she is our Jill of all trades. She actually in the summertime takes care of our garden.
Oh,
And she retired as the executive assistant to the director of the Y. How long? 3 years? 4 years ago?
5 years ago.
oh wow.
Oh, wow.
Is when you're
Wow.
doing retirement. So she really graciously agreed to be the note taker for Russ, and Russ is our secretary.
Okay.
So, so that's it. I'm gonna, let's see, what's the best way to do this? I'm gonna first move a little screen over here, and I'm gonna bring up my screen. So I'm gonna just share my screen with you.
So because we don't have just because we don't have a quorum just yet, we can't really go into the agenda. Right? Consent agenda will need a few more people to attend.
Yes.
So this is a little, just a little diversion, I would say.
This is a little diversion. We can come back to the agenda, but in terms of
Yeah.
the education, one of the things that Ginny had emailed me this morning was she was really glad that I had included the information about increasing the minimum wage. And she said it always seems to be some confusion about what the role of the board is in relation to personnel. So, so that's what we're going to talk about today. The main role, the most direct role that the board has is hiring and evaluating the library director. And the director is the only employee that the board oversees. Here's the part where it seems really confusing, because in January at the annual meeting, I often submit the employee. And it's because all appointments, titles, and salaries have to be approved by the Board of Trustees at a legal meeting and noted in the minutes. The board creates the position, establishes salaries, formally appoints the staff upon recommendation of the directors. We work together. I select and make a recommendation, and the board appoints. And that it's fine for the board to do a retroactive appointment, or to say something, because we are subject to civil service, to say pending civil service approval, right? If I know, you know, I did a certification of eligibles and I'm interviewing, you know, whoever's on the list. The one time that the board might be a little bit more involved would be if the candidate for a position is at a higher level, something to do with the leadership team. So the library treasurer, an assistant director, then the board might want to know more about that, just because it's part of the upper management of the library. The other role that the board has is to uphold policies where the complaint process indicates that the board has a role. So a good example is our sexual harassment prevention policy. If there was an employee who had I'm usually the person that everybody's supposed to report to, but if somebody had a problem with me and who were they going to go to? Then I think our policy states that they go to the board president. And I think the same thing might be true with the whistleblower policy. If somebody felt that the director was the problem and they needed to blow this whistle, they would have to go to the board. But that's really the only time that, I think the only two complaint procedures that we have. So does that help clear up some of the confusion that we've had at annual meetings? I was hoping it would. I learned a lot too, because I went to the employee handbook. Oh, that was the one other thing I was going to tell you guys. Because I talked to Linda yesterday. I do have copies of the library trustee handbook. So if there's, I think I have 4. So I'll definitely have one for Linda. But if there's anybody else that wants one, just let me know. And because, sometimes you might need to read something at night when your time is weighing heavy on you. You can read the library trustee handbook. So that was that.
Lisa, could I ask a little bit about the civil service part
Sure.
of that? So I have a few questions. Are all positions civil service? Are there normally people already waiting on a civil service list when you have a new position, or is it something you have to have a new test created for? And also, I'm assuming a person can take a position and then take the test. So I had like 3 parts to that.
You do have 3 parts. So all positions are civil service, but within civil service, there's specific designations. So it could be a competitive class or a labor class, and then there's other class that I forget. So a good example of a labor class are the cleaners. There's no test. And I could just hire whoever I want. Competitive, there's competitive and non-competitive. And here's Jenny entering the room. So right now our bookkeeper position is technically called the senior account clerk, and I can appoint who I want. It's a non-competitive position because it's so few hours. It's like less, and I don't know what that magic number is, but it's up until now, it's always been this very minor number of hours. We're going to be changing that, right? With part of my plan is to, Melissa is going to be leaving by the middle of December, and Melanie will be starting, because the position is going to increase the number of hours. And that this is kind of the problem working with civil service. Melanie is at the top of the senior account clerk list. So I could easily appoint her to the position. Then I'm going to have to work to develop a new job description. It goes to the Civil Service Commission. They'll create the position. Then it'll go to you at the board for you to approve the creation of the position for us. And then I can provisionally appoint Melanie into the new job title. Typically, when I provisionally appoint someone, that's seems to be a trigger for the state to offer the exam. So in terms of competitive positions, yes, there's almost always a list. I am not required to go by the list if there's less than 3 names.
Okay.
So that's another way I can appoint someone. It is a provisional appointment until they take the test and score in the top 3 scoring positions.
Right, I was going to say that even though you appoint someone, once that civil service test is given, that individual has to score pretty high in order to retain that position. Is that correct?
Correct. So we
And it's
actually
just the top 3? Is it just the top 3, or does he or she have to be at the top?
Nope, it could be anywhere in the top 3 scoring positions. So
Okay.
Okay.
So we could
Okay.
have 3 people that scored a 97 and 6 people that scored a 90 and 2 people that scored a 71, right? And I have to, those are the 3 top scores. I have all of those people.
Oh, it's the score. It's not the people who scored. It's
Right.
it's the number.
It's the number.
So you've got now 3, 6, 7, 8 people to consider for the position.
Right. Right. And so if as I work my way through the list, some people will decline, right? They're the top scorer. You know, there's 3 people that got a 95, and I talked to person A, and I was like, hey, you know, we have a position at the library. It will be nights, you know, evenings and Saturdays, and it's 20 hours a week. Are you interested? And they're saying, no, I only want to work, you know, after 3, but before 6, or you know, so they give.
I'm sorry, Lisa, so do you still have to go through this even though you've made a provisional appointment? You still have to go through all of them?
No.
Word?
Yes, I do still have to.
So there's a chance that the person that you, even though scoring in the top 3, there's a chance that the person you appointed provisionally could be outed by someone who had a higher score?
No.
Or is that your decision? You have the latitude to make a decision.
I have the latitude within the top 3 scores.
Okay.
If it's a provisional appointment, if there's nobody, if I don't have anybody, it's a brand new position.
Sure.
I have to go through.
Okay.
We have had instances where employees did not score.
Yeah.
Top 3, and they couldn't keep their position.
They couldn't keep. Yeah, that's what I gathered. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought
Did I
wasn't sure.
I can't remember if I answered all your questions.
You did. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else have questions about trustee education? No.
We need 5, I think, do we not, for a quorum?
So we have 1,
Because we have 9 members.
4. Yep.
So we've only got 4 at this point, so we can chat a bit, but we really can't act on anything.
Wait, we have 5. We have 5.
1, 2,
Linda's not yet on
3,
the board.
4.
Oh,
Linda doesn't count
Linda's not
at this
yet.
point because
Good point. Linda, can we quickly install you? Sure. This
Is that allowed?
This is our very quick transition.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, Jenny.
you thought perhaps Joe was going to be late? Is that what he said?
He's not coming at all.
Oh, he's not coming at all.
No, he's not going to come at all. Jim is going to try and be here, but he'll be.
You're not sure about Dawn.
We haven't heard from Dawn or Ellen.
Wow.
Well,
It's unusual. I mean,
Yeah.
not having a quorum.
Yeah.
Okay, well, moving on. We can't really, you can talk about the closed days, but we can't act on those. I'm just looking at the agenda. There's the minutes, director's report. Does anybody have any questions about the director's report? I think.
I'll just say, wow.
Yeah, a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I did have a question, actually. Lisa, you had mentioned the collaboration with the National Women's Hall of Fame, and they did receive that grant. Do you have any idea what sort of programs they might be developing and how we're going to be involved, or that just hasn't come around yet?
It hasn't come around yet.
Okay.
It's about, it was really important for the grant to partner. Oh, here's Russ.
Good.
It was really important for the as a focus of the grant to partner with a library located in a high needs area, and we qualified. So it's about trying to get their information and their programs out to communities that have high rates of poverty. And so we're just a really good partner for them. They'll be developing the programs. We'll work with them a little bit. And I'm sure
Yeah,
Dory will work a lot with her.
And in your report, it says that it won't be implemented until 22, 23. So,
Right.
But I was just curious to know if there was any topic or if that was part of the grant, if they, had described
No.
what they might or might not be doing. Okay.
Yeah,
All
they're
right.
gonna develop it. Hi, Russ.
Okay, great.
Hi,
Hey,
Lacey.
Russ.
Hi,
Hey.
guys. Sorry I'm late.
No problem.
Yeah, no, that's fine. You're just in time to so that we have a quorum, so we can act on some of the
Okay.
items. And welcome Linda, who successfully campaigned for her position. I assume it was a unanimous vote.
I think probably, yeah.
There weren't any write-ins, I don't think, right?
A landslide.
A landslide, I like that.
That's fine.
Nope.
Hey, I had to run too and get my 10 signatures this time.
Right.
Oh, right.
Last time I was doing it, so I got
That's
lucky.
for everybody.
Yep, and I did email Meg and Linda and Joe about taking your oath of office. So you just have to follow that link, set up your appointment, bring the letter, and then I just need to know the date because it's required on a state report that I fill out.
Okay. All right then. Well, we can then move into the consent agenda. I would ask that you strike the building committee meeting because I did not get a chance to get those notes together. We met on the 19th last week. And so I just haven't had a chance to get around to that. We may want to try to change that meeting so it's not so close to our board meeting so we have time. So maybe we'll talk about that next time.
Okay.
But at any rate, the consent agenda then would consist of the finance, the board governance, and executive committee notes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I want to make one change.
Yes?
The executive committee notes have me as absent and I'm not on that committee. So if you just take that off.
And I did fix that in after I sent it out. So I have that change.
Great.
So you were absent.
I was absent.
I don't remember you being there, Max.
Good catch, Meg.
All right, very good. Anything else with regard to the committee reports?
I wanted to just mention something in my report, the way it's reported. The last sentence when she said the relationship between the foundation, I printed the agenda on top of the minute, so I'm trying to read here. And the board needs to be refined when the foundation no longer owns the building. Again, making it clear that no decision was made at this meeting about, the ownership, whether it's going to happen or not happen. That it's everyone there agreed that it was something that we thought should happen, but a lot of work has to be done to make that happen. And that the foundation, I would say, needs to look at its mission and define its role. And that has to happen no matter who owns the building, whether it's the foundation or the district. So I just wanted to, just because we might change ownership doesn't mean that we're going to totally be a different body. We have to think about doing that anyway. Am I making my point clear?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the consent agenda with the minutes, the director's report and committee reports minus the building committee. Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Second? One, take your pick, Dixie. Meg and Jenny.
Yeah,
Yeah,
whichever.
yeah. Okay. Any further discussion then? All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed and carried. Okay, action items. We have board statements. We don't really have anybody here representing the finance committee, do we?
No. Do you want to table this?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we table this? I think that would make some sense.
Okay, so
Um,
table the statements, the board statements and,
And the claims,
okay.
yeah. We'll table both of those and we'll save them for our next meeting in December. Okay, pay time policy. We had a meeting of the executive committee to discuss this. Lisa, would you like to summarize?
Sure. What we're looking at doing is changing our paid time off. Originally, I had wanted everything included in one paid time off bucket because as your employer, you know, I don't want to know why you take time off. But the New York State retirement system wants us to separately track sick time, and now there's also New York State paid sick leave. So we have to track sick time separately. And it just seems to make a lot more sense to separate our buckets back to kind of a very traditional way of looking at paid time off. So we'll have holidays. Right now, full-time employees get holidays, and it's this crazy kind of wacky schedule where full-time employees, which is really Jill and I, get 12 paid holidays, 7 of which the board names and 5 of which are floaters. And I just want to do away with this before we add more full-time people. So I laid it out in the policy that there would be, I think, 9 paid. And it was really important to look at the difference between a paid holiday and a closed day. Right now, part-time people aren't eligible with the current policy for holidays. And in this, they would on a prorated scale, unless they regularly work less than 20 hours a week, then they're not eligible. But when the building is, when we're closed, that's when the people can't work. So it's holiday time. Then vacation leave, again, we have like some kind of wacky formula that Danette is usually in charge of, and now Danette isn't here, so that would make me in charge of it, and it's not good to put me in charge of. So and the way we look at vacation time right now, traditionally both full-time and part-time people get vacation time. It's based on what you work last year, and that's all given to you in January. And I would really like it to be accrued per pay period, which we can do with our new payroll system. And most payroll systems today would handle it if we weren't working with Paylocity. The other change is, rather than based on the average number of hours you worked last year, it's actually based on what your average work schedule would be. So an example is, let's say Becky, who, if we went by her average hours worked last year, well, she subbed when Annette was out sick and somebody broke their leg. And so she worked tons of hours, even though her normal schedule is 20 hours a week, but she ended up with 60 hours of vacation time because her average work schedule was 30 hours a week times 2. So with a new proposed version, it would go by what her average schedule is 20 hours a week. So she would get the whatever that formula is written out there. It wouldn't be based on what she worked. And there is some increase based on years of service. So, you know, if you work 3 years, or if you work 4 or more years, you get an extra day. So that is built in for both full-time and part-time people. And I really think, then the paid sick leave, it's a state law. It started September 30th, that, and it's based, it goes into effect January 1st, but employees could accrue time starting September 30th. But I'm suggesting we front load the sick time and just say January 1st, you have 40 hours of sick time. And the 40 hours is dictated by parameters in the law. And everything is, the only thing we can really change with that is whether we accrue per pay period or whether we front load, and what the increments are. Like if we let people take a 4-hour time period, and there's parameters so I just went with what the law is. I didn't mess with it to say, oh, we're going to go with a 3-hour increment. I just took the 4-hour increment. And we did talk a lot about all of this at the executive committee. I tried to answer the questions that the executive committee had. I went back to the policy, made some changes. Originally, it was per month, and Larry said, why wouldn't you go per pay period? It would be a lot easier to administer, and he's right. See, that's why you should have put me in charge of paid time off. And that's it. So holidays, vacation, paid sick leave.
Just a point of clarification also, the sick leave, although it accumulates year after year, when someone leaves, retires or leaves otherwise, we're not fiscally responsible for whatever has accumulated. I assume we are liable for the vacation hours.
Yes, unused vacation time. Unless someone's fired, you have to be in good standing to be able.
Okay. Okay. And is that clear in this policy?
There's a sentence in there, something about you have to be in good standing.
All right. I just missed. Okay. That's good. Okay. Great. Okay. Any discussion? Questions? Comments? I think you did a really good job with this.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good job. It seems to be very thorough. I agree. It would be a heck of a lot easier just to call it all PTO, and we don't care whether it's sick or vacation. But the state is the state, and so we'll abide by those rules. So that's where we are.
Thank you.
Everybody okay then? We need a motion to accept this policy then.
I'll move.
Okay, Nancy, second.
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Russ. Any further discussion then? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Okay, very good. Okay, next is the 2021. Hard to think we're saying that already, right? 2021? Although I think I'm going to welcome 2021.
For sure.
Close days. You have a list that you included on the days that'll be closed.
Right.
Lisa, any discussion or questions about this?
Is this, where is this terribly different? Or is it pretty much, it looks the same?
It's the same.
Okay, no big changes. Okay.
Yeah, did the changes, I mean, because there are New Year's is on a Friday, so you're closed that Saturday. Would you typically be, if New Year's was on a Wednesday, would you just typically be open the rest of the week? Is it just because New Year's falls on a Friday that you're closed on Saturday? Is that why?
Yes.
Yes. Right.
There is, there's precedent. So a holiday that falls, a federal holiday, right, that falls on a Saturday or a Sunday is observed.
Mhm.
preceding Friday or on a Monday.
Right.
But we're not a Monday through Friday operation, so Saturdays are challenging. So Saturday, the holiday would be observed on that Saturday.
Mhm.
And we could close on that Friday. It's viable, but I left it at closing at 4 p.m.
I don't think that makes
Time
sense.
to think about it if we want to amend this before December 31st, because who knows what 2021.
Yeah,
That's going
nobody,
to be one heck of a party on December 31st, 2021.
think so. I think it looks fine. I don't know if anybody else has any questions or thoughts about it. If hearing none, have a motion to accept the close days.
I'll make a motion.
Yeah,
I'll
Megan
move.
and Ginny. Okay. All in favor?
I,
Opposed and carried. Okay, so the wage scale, that's next. Looking for that. Just a little brief on this. It's in compliance with the minimum wage. Is that
Right. So
right?
technically the minimum wage,
It's in the director's report.
right, on December 31st, it needs to go up to $12.50. And Jenny, in your email to me, you said something about minimum wage going to $15 in 2021. Technically, that's not,
22, I think.
well, December 31st is it when it happens, but that only is true for Long Island and Westchester. Starting in 2021, annual increases will be published by the Commissioner of Labor on or about October 1st. Because we're, there's rules for New York City, then rules for Long Island, Chester, and then it's the rest of the state. So we fall under that rest of the state part. So
Okay, good.
sometime on or about October 1st, we'll know what the next minimum wage bump will be.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Since you included this in the director's report, did we already approve this by default? We can do this formally if you like, but we probably should.
Yeah, probably should.
Yeah, be good to have this as a separate document. Are there any questions about this at all? We've had some
Real quick
discussion
question,
on this.
Lisa.
Yes.
Lisa, did you, I'm sure you probably did, this was included in your payroll projections for
Yes.
next year's budget? You did? Okay, all right, I figured you did, but I just wanted to be sure. Okay.
Yep. Technically, there's only two position titles that have a minimum that's at the minimum wage: clerk and page. Those are the only two positions that have that as a minimum, and so that's why every year we have this bump. Right now we have 3 people in the clerk position. Technically, Dixie's in the page position. I have to come up with a gardener position, a
gardener.
Jill of all trade position.
It probably pays a lot, Dixie.
What-
So then why is the pay, why is that the minimum, the mid amount
I was just
No,
going to ask that.
that's no,
at 12? No, that's not right.
that's not right. The mid is wrong.
Okay.
Mid should be 13,
Yes.
1325, halfway in between, right?
Right, exactly. I'm sorry. Good catch, Nancy.
Oh,
Yeah, I was
wow.
just looking at that myself. So what number should that be? Do you know? Offhand?
I'd have
Can I
to,
do quick math?
I can't do quick math. If anybody else can.
Well, we have the magic
halfway
of
between
our
12,
handy calculator here.
50 and 14. Is the 14 correct in that, Lisa?
Yes, the 14 is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, 1325 is what I have.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I came up with too, 1325.
1325.
Okay.
So we'll
All
fix
right,
that.
then. 25, okay. All right, any questions, any other discussion about the minimum wage then? I will make a motion then that we accept the minimum, the wage scale, 2021 wage scale with the correction that the page mid-range is 1325.
Second.
Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, very good. Lisa, I know you sent a kind of a lengthy email regarding the exposure. Would you like to talk a little? You'd like to talk a little more about closing, reopening because of the pandemic? Does that have to do with the case that was discovered, or just a general policy altogether?
General policy altogether.
Okay. Okay.
It's something that we've been looking at as we see yellow and orange zones on either, to our west and to our east. So what are the triggers that would put us back to virtual only, or scale back if we're at express browsing? What would scale us back to in-line pickup only, or curbside pickup only, where no people can come in the building, but we'll bring your holds out to your car? So I've been working with our leadership team, and I will share that with you, but I just needed you to be aware that this, thinking about these conditions. So a big part is the governor's cluster initiative with the yellow, orange, and red, because the yellow and orange number of people in the building, the total number of people, including staff. So there's that. And then I think at orange and red levels, the schools go to a virtual only, the entire school system, not just, Genesee Elementary or Casey Park. The other thing that we started talking about is that New York safety plan, where we stated that if we have one employee who tests positive, that we would close the building and do this EPA level cleaning. I think we have to update that part of the safety plan. Again, I think that was written back in May, June, when there was a lot more concern about surface contact than there is now. And now I think it's much more about how many people are indoors and what your ventilation is, and are people wearing masks? And that was really the only questions the health department asked me when I talked to them on Sunday. Were the interactions with the person who tested positive, was it for more than 10 minutes? Were they wearing masks? And I was like, for the most part, there were only 3 people in the building. The conversations were 10 minutes or less, and everybody was wearing a mask. And the Department of Health said, okay, we're good. That the other people were not required to get tested unless they had symptoms, and nobody was required to quarantine other than the person who had tested positive. So the other part of all of this is, what are the conditions other than a zone? What would happen if we have multiple people quarantined? What happened if this exposure, there's the person who was involved, and say they talked to 6 other employees for 20 minutes, and that there was now all of these people have to quarantine. How do we run our business? And so we came up with that if staff availability falls below a minimum of 5 due to whatever, due to travel restrictions, due to quarantine, due to other kinds of leave, then we would switch to virtual only. The kind of document that I'm going to be sharing with you this week, and just would want you to call me, email me, and ask questions. And I wanted to know what your concerns are so that I could also address it in how we think about moving to different levels of service.
I think the primary thing would be as to what you and your staff are comfortable with. You're the ones on the front lines. Okay, so I think that that would be a determination that you folks should come up with. Yeah, where you think you need to be in both these situations, and bring that to us. And I'm sure
Okay.
we'll be more than happy to work with you on that. I mean, we don't want you people getting sick. We don't want the library closed down for any length of time if we don't have to.
Yeah.
But it's got to be what you folks are comfortable with, I think. What do you guys think?
No, I agree. I think the other question would be what, the starting point. What's your end point? How do you figure that out? When you would go back to.
I have on my screen, I'm looking at you. I'm also looking at the service level, the conditions that trigger this event. Then I have a column, how long or conditions to change to a different.
Right.
So a good example is we're saying that if the library is located in an orange zone that means our building would be at a maximum of 10 people. We're to a curbside delivery only, so no public in the building. How long would we stay there? We'd stay at the curbside delivery until the zone changes. If it changes to red, we'd move to virtual only. If it changes to yellow, we'd move to lobby pickup only. And so I also have a lot of notes about communications. How do we share this information with the public? What's the we don't want to waver between lots of different levels. That's confusing for everybody. So how do we maintain some level of consistency? What kind of procedures need to be in place? Is it different? Is it something else? Do we need more supplies if we go to curbside delivery? Right now, there hasn't been a huge call for it, and we just bring an armload of books out. But just like if you drive through Simple Roast, it says no masky, no drinky. I drive through Simple Roast a lot.
Yeah, we were there today.
That would be really important for our staff, right? To your point, Russ, that I would want our staff to be safe, and we would have to get that word across to people who are waiting in their cars that we really need you to wear a mask for us to bring this out to your car. So, so those are all of my notes, and I think we just really felt comfortable with this framework today. I've been wrestling with it since last week, and then this past weekend, to think about how do you, there's so many different variables, and how do you address all of those variables? So I feel very confident in this framework. There's just a couple of other questions that I want to make sure I have good answers before I share it with you. And it's about, it's really the library board's decision to close the library. So I can make recommendations, but I thought it would be really helpful if I had all these triggers, right? Like if we're in a red zone, we're going to be virtual only. And if I shared that, and then you could vote either to accept the plan, or you could vote to designate me to have that authority to make the changes in conjunction with the conditions that exist.
So Lisa, if we, as a county or community, go into yellow, orange, or red, you would follow the state protocols. But if there's just an outbreak at the library.
library.
We're not-
Yeah, that was my,
When
that's
you
my
go
question
down
too.
to, if you get down to 5, you have to change, because that's a whole different scale of things.
Right, so I have lots of conditions for triggers. Hang on, I gotta just.
That's where it's a little tougher.
So one condition is if a staff member who regularly works on site and has significant interaction with other staff and or library customers tests positive and or the health department recommends closure, then we would move to curbside delivery. So that kind of takes into account, right? We're not in a orange zone, but we have somebody like Stephanie who works at the desk and talks, has a lot of interaction both with her team that works in the lobby as well as library customers. That would be super different than if it was somebody like our library treasurer, Patty Festa, who doesn't come into the building. If she tests positive, it's a different state than if somebody who has those significant interactions. So that's a trigger. And then if another trigger to move to curbside delivery is if 5 or more staff members are in quarantine. Then how long would we be at curbside? It would be until the quarantine period is complete for all. And I'm waiting to find out, do we need to pad that and say, because, if 3 people spoke, let's just say Stephanie was the one, right? And people had those interactions that were longer that the health department asked about, everybody's still all wearing masks. But now Stephanie is in quarantine plus the 3 people she had significant interactions with, they're in quarantine. But then 4 days later, we have another person go into quarantine. So now you have those staggered levels. So you need to get past all of the quarantine for a set number of days. And I'm suggesting that we have a week. I don't know if that's a good number or a bad number. And then we would be able to go back to express browsing if that's where we are. Does that help?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's overwhelming to think
I
about
know it is.
Wow.
different
It
variables.
really is.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can predict everything that's going to happen. So I do like the idea of tying things to the yellow, orange, red. And, and if isolated thing, just because it occurred in the library.
Larry, you keep freezing up.
You freeze. I think we lost him.
He might come back.
Yeah.
The other variable in all of this that I'm not sure how to handle is when we start construction, right? And how does a construction crew fit into all of this? So
You just play it as it comes. Let's maybe. I mean, that's not going to happen until sometime in the spring or summer. So,
February.
Yeah, construction. Oh, that's right. It will start sooner, won't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
So
Yeah. I don't think you can anticipate every single thing that's going to happen. So let's just take it as it comes.
okay.
All right.
Thanks, Lisa.
Welcome.
All right. Discussion items, Seymour Library Foundation update. You just give us an update, Nancy?
Yeah.
Want to do it again?
I'm not gonna, we did meet on November 5th, and we had a very long meeting. So I am not going to bore you with all of that, but I thought it was a good meeting. We had to go talk about a lot of things, as you know, and I think it was a time for people to express how they were feeling and what have you, and realize that that we have some more work that we have to do, as I mentioned earlier. A bit of soul searching, I think. And again, to me, that has nothing to do with the building ownership. So that's just something that has to happen. We did vote to, well, we had a report from Bill Light, who manages the endowment, and spent quite a bit of time on that. So the endowment, the total number right now is a little over 3 million. I didn't look today, but a little over 3 million. That does include the Osborne account, which is what, I don't have that figure in front of me, 90,000 maybe.
Around there.
Yep, and some of that's restricted, some of it's not restricted. We did vote to hire legal counsel to help us think about the building, and I don't want to say the building, I have to say the property ownership issue. So we're trying to get that lined up. I don't really have anything to report on that at the moment. We talked a bit about what we should be as a foundation. Should we be fundraising? A lot of people feel, Larry agrees. A lot of the foundation members feel that that's not the reason they joined.
I'll stay muted though, Nancy.
Foundation board, but again, those are discussions that they're tough to have, but we need to have them, and we will continue to have them. As far as the projects go, nothing was decided. I think we were waiting for the next building committee meeting, which I guess happened, right, Larry?
Yeah, yes, that happened last Thursday. I didn't have a chance to get.
I think our representative, the foundation representative to the building committee is Chris Hutchinson.
Right.
And Chris actually suggested that maybe we hold off a bit. The timeline is going to probably be delayed because of a lot of reasons, which will give us a little more time to figure out how we all are going to finance this project. I'm talking about the roof mainly right now, which is the huge project. Lisa reported that she had a conversation with Dan Fessenden at Emerson Foundation, and they want to. Were you there, Larry, too? It was just Lisa. Okay. Of course, they want to know how we're going to fund it. So, and any outside foundation is going to ask that question. So, so I'm just working on those things from afar right now. We won't meet as a board for a while, but we did agree that we would meet as needed as we go through this process, because it is important that we not slow things down, just because we're trying to figure out things for ourselves. We have to keep moving forward, and we have to figure out how we're going to do this. Larry and I are going to have a conversation next week, just the two of us, to sort of talk about all of this. So just want to keep the communication going and open. And I think that's it right now. I wish I had something more definite to report to you.
I think the gist of our conversation with Chris and Kathleen Carnes was also in that building committee meeting. But,
good.
I think that the bottom line is that we, perhaps as a board, so this goes beyond the purview of the building committee, but as a board or executive committee or just a small group of people, or maybe you and I, Nancy, just sort of brainstorm a list of various scenarios about how this can be funded,
Right.
Which might include the foundation taking a loan out for the entire project. It might include any combination of the trustees, using part of our bequest or going out and doing some capital fundraising. So I think what has to happen is that we'll need to have some sort of perhaps a list of scenarios.
Right,
And the foundation will have to get their hand around that. The
right.
roof project is not tied directly not necessarily tied to the
The ownership,
to purchase or transfer the building ownership.
right,
But there are some scenarios where that might occur.
right,
So I
right.
just think that's
Yeah, and I totally agree. And we discuss various ways of doing this. And that's why we really need somebody legally to help us think about this. But that doesn't mean that we can't, come up with the ideas, which is what we have to do. So, and in the meantime, I think, Lisa had a conversation with Ellen, the district attorney in Albany, and that, just talking to her about some of these things too. So yeah, so we will keep this conversation going.